Well,
Be
you
great.
guys, hi. Dr. Hayes from Galveston, Texas, and I'm joined by our regulars, Jim and Ann Glenn from San Antonio, Texas. Jim's our big money man, and Ann is our beautiful personal trainer and nutritionist. And of course, we're joined by the illustrious Dr. Lee Osler, author of several books on redox science and dentist extraordinaire up in Washington State. Also a member of the medical professionals board with me and with our guest tonight, Dr. David Silverman.
All right.
Dr. David Silverman is a fan favorite. People love him. We all use his tools. He is the author of 3 times in 5 minutes, which I'm sure he's going to talk to you about. But he is a podiatrist by training, was a foot surgeon for many years, actually retired now, owned his own surgical theater as well, and was an incredible businessman. Now he's full-time in ASEA. He's won many awards, Business Builder of the Year, Millionaires Club, you name it. Ambassador Triple Diamond with the company. That means he has shared this with people all over the world and made a huge impact with that. So we're so blessed and honored to have David on here with us tonight. He's hailing today from Florida. He goes back and forth between Florida and Maryland, but he's in Florida right now. So David, take it away.
Hey guys, how is everybody? How are everybody? Is everybody good?
We're great.
Doing
Good to see
wonderful.
you
Thank
guys.
you.
Great.
Good. Thanks for having me back. Haven't been back in a while. I'm excited to be here, and I really just found out I was on today. I thought I was on next week, but it all worked out.
We're glad
We
to have you.
appreciate it.
That's fantastic. So David, take us back. You've been with the company now for 11, 12 years. How long?
Well, I started as just as a skeptical customer in December of 10. It was brought to me by my friend Debbie, and that was the only product the company had then was still the most important product, which is the magic in a bottle. But my friend Debbie, who you guys know, brought it to me, and she looked a little nervous when she said, David, I love you. And she paused, and I didn't know if something bad was happening to her. She was saying goodbye, or she wanted me to leave my wife, or I didn't know what really was saying. But I know why she's nervous. She was nervous because when you bring this gift to people, you don't know if they're going to reject it or they're going to accept it, not accept hook, line, and sinker, but to investigate it, just investigate it. Because that's all it takes is a proper investigation to know it's real. And since sometimes it's a life and death matter for some people, sometimes it's just they don't sleep well or they have blood sugar problems or whatever. She told me about it, what it had done for her mother and herself, and I saw the change in her skin condition. And so I investigated it more, and really initially, not for me. I was 50 at the time. I'm 63 now. But my dad had just been diagnosed with something pretty scary in his body that, we don't use diagnostic terms, but, so it's something that you never want to hear you have in your body or someone you love does, whether it's their prostate or their breast or their lung. And so I really investigated it for my dad and got my dad on it. So first I got him as a customer, but that's how I was introduced to it. Then I referred people to my friend Debbie with all kinds of issues. And over weeks and months, they kept coming back saying, thank you, Debbie really helped me with this stuff. And so eventually I took a look at the opportunity side of it, but it took me about 8 months to say, okay, if this is what it seems to be, the greatest breakthrough ever, which sounds like hyperbole, until someone knows what it does and has seen it. If it is what they're saying, God, I'd like to be a part of this. If the people are good people who are running it. And that's when I checked out the company, checked out the people. I went to visit them and I said, I'm in. So I got involved towards the end of 2011. Long answer, but that's how I got started.
No, I love that. And you bring up something very important because, a lot of times what I teach people is we're just the messenger. We're just making people aware of it. What they do with that information is totally up to them. But when you really love somebody and care about them, and especially if they have a challenge, it feels like a little bit of desperation to get the information because this is fairly new, even though the company's been around for 14 years and the science is actually older than that. We're presenting something, brand new. And especially in Debbie's case, where she wasn't a physician, she wasn't a healthcare professional.
Yeah.
And the person who brought it to me was not either. So it really, when you're coming to somebody with a background in science, that can be very intimidating. So I love that she said, I love you. I want you to know about this. And you do have to give people time. We forget that. It was 8 months. Me, I signed up. But I wouldn't tell anybody. I told a couple of people offhandedly, but I didn't want to admit to anybody that I was drinking salt water from Salt Lake City. I was like, we will be ridiculed. We will be ridiculed for this because we live on an island. You live on the coast. We're surrounded by salt water.
Yeah, right.
Until you know what this really is and what it does and how it impacts the body, it does feel a little intimidating.
The thing is, she didn't know my dad was sick.
Right.
I think people tend to look, we know what it does. We've seen it. I've been seeing it since 2011. And some people that are on here have been sharing it for 2 weeks. They just started, right? But what makes people investigate it seriously, I think, is if you can identify a problem that they have. So for me, I just said, hey, I immediately thought of my dad. I said, he was just diagnosed. Could this help? And so she got me some information. There weren't the double-blind studies that we have now. But I saw the safety studies and I saw that it was as safe as water. It could not hurt him in any way. And then she got me on the phone with people to talk to people that had had some pretty remarkable results. So I saw enough to know. And my dad still said, I need to clear with my doctor at a very famous hospital in Baltimore, starts with John's. And he said, you need to clear it. Clear it with my doc up there. So I took it to him and he looked at it and he said, it's just salt and water. Well, what is this? And I said, no, it's not. It's redox signaling molecules, but it is made from salt water. And he looked on the computer and I said, here, just go look at the safety study. So at least you'll know that it's safe. You don't have to believe me because I don't even know what it does because I hadn't seen it yet. My dad was the first person. But I said, my dad just needs to know that it's safe. He looked at it, he said, it's not going to hurt him. It's fine. So, but if you can identify a problem a person has, and whether their neck hurts, fortunately, we can prove it to those people in 10 minutes. Like, wow, that works. Or their back, something that hurts, but maybe they have a breathing problem or a blood sugar problem or a pregnancy problem or a skin problem. And you have to get them to think, well, this sounds too good to be true, but gosh, what if it did help? And sometimes I find people will look deeper into this, not for them, but for someone they love than themselves, because they if it's a child or a father or a mother or a sibling or a pet, it's like, they realize I'm the one this is being brought to. If I don't investigate this, I don't really believe it's going to work, but if I don't investigate it, then the person I love is going to suffer. What if I find out that it was real when it was brought to me? So it's really, people look at it for different reasons. They have a health issue themselves. They love somebody that does. They want to look younger because it's anti-aging on the outside. I mean, it helps your body rejuvenate cells. They just want to look younger. They want to protect their health. They want better athletic performance. Or people are looking for an opportunity. And this breakthrough that's completely patented, intellectual property protected, it's created an opportunity. But I just find, for me, it was my father solely. I didn't get on the product for 8 months.
Yeah.
Real quick, before we go much further, because we have a lot of people that are new, or a lot of people watching the recording that are new. Lee, can you go ahead and do the medical disclaimer, please? And then back to you, Dr. Silverman. Can you explain what we're talking about? A lot of people may not even know yet what we're really discussing about. So, Lee, if you don't mind either doing both or whatever you guys want to do from there. But we need to make sure people understand what we're talking about.
Mm-hmm.
Lee?
We represent a company called C Global that is a cellular health company. And that means this is a supplement. At one time, it was headed in a different direction. It was switched over to the supplement side, which means that we don't diagnose, cure, treat. That's not what this is about. We are complicit with rules that govern supplements, which means we don't make those claims. We talk about cellular health, and so the premise here, as you'll hear Dr. David talk about, as well as Dr. Marine and Jim and Ann, is this is making your cells work better, and it's healing from the inside. I like to think of it as awakening the inner doctor and enhancing that. David?
Yeah, so what makes it really unique, and honestly, I every time I talk to somebody, I just say a little prayer that for them or someone they love, that they take it seriously and they don't just Google to do their research, that they look at the science if they're interested in the science, or they just look at the safety studies and say, let me just try it because it's as safe as water. It comes with a money back guarantee. So there really is no risk to trying it, whether you believe it or not. But look, company's 14 years old. They did 1.3 billion in sales. They're in 33 countries. The label says the ingredients are salt and water. It's not just salt and water. How could you do that for 14 years and grow like that? So what's unique about it is it's not a nutritional product. There's no nutritional value to this. It's not a medicine. It's not a food. It's something totally different, and different meaning what's in this bottle is in us all. Our cells make this. Every human being on this planet makes this. Every dog, cat, horse, bird makes redox signaling molecules. Redox stands for reductant and oxidant. And Lee's book, which I love, Dr. Osler's book, Redox Matters at redoxmatters.com, is excellent. And there's some simpler books too to read and more complicated books, but that's a good one. But you can get more information there. But what it is our cells make this in our mitochondria. And our mitochondria is in all of our cells. It's not in our red blood cells, but it's in all of our cells. And it's called the power plant of the cell because it creates the molecule that we burn for fuel. So we eat our foods, carbohydrates, fats, proteins, whatever, gets transported into the cell. And then the cell has to create the molecule we burn for fuel, which is called ATP, adenosine triphosphate, just like a car runs on gasoline. You start with oil, you refine it, you get gasoline. Well, in the production of the ATP molecule, there's all these little byproducts that get spun off during the production of ATP. And I was a biology major at the University of Maryland in the 80s, podiatric med school in Chicago. And Lee and Maureen, we all learned this, that the mitochondria was just about ATP. All that other stuff was exhaust, just like in a car. You burn the fuel, the car goes, but the exhaust comes out the back. It's just worthless. Well, this is not exhaust. These little redox molecules are produced in that process, and they have a function. And so what happens is our mitochondria at puberty, they start going downhill, as simplified. They're not as efficient. They're not as numerous. So children have a lot of energy, unending energy, because they produce so much ATP that they're burning for fuel. Well, at puberty, we start producing less. So when you look at a 20-year-old, they're not producing as much as they did when they were 10. Now, people say, well, 20-year-olds are just as healthy as 10-year-olds. They're not as healthy as 10-year-olds. They're faster and they're stronger because of the muscle mass, but they will not heal a wound as quickly or a broken bone as quickly as they did it when they were 10. You heal slower from the same injury at 10 than you did at 20. The same injury at 30, it's slower, 40, 50, 60. So you produce less and less of these redox molecules as you age. And you see what happens to us. The healing time takes longer. I mean, just think about when you're a kid. I just did a meeting up in the Villages the other day. You're a kid and you're playing with your friends and you roll down the hill, right? You're like, lie on your side. Everybody gets dizzy. It's like, oh, this is fun. Let's do it again. It's like you're getting high or something. And then you get up and you go do it again. Well, the next day when you go to school, are you hunched over walking like, oh God, I hurt so bad from rolling down the hill? No, but when you get older, picture doing it at 50 or 60, rolling down the hill. I mean, you're going to be hurting pretty darn bad. Well, our body doesn't bounce back from that, but also you see more diseases as we get older. Now, we don't make any medical claims with this. You have to connect the dots. You have to connect the dots because this is a supplement. But you don't see a lot of arthritis in children. You don't see a lot of glaucoma in children. You don't see a lot of cancer in children. You don't see a lot of diabetes in children. You don't see a lot of wrinkles in children. As we age, we produce less and less of this. So then the question is, what do these little molecules do that are made from saline? It's not saline anymore. Well, Lee is like the brainiac. Lee understands the science better than me. I just do it in simple terms, right? One is we know that it raises our levels of our own antioxidants, glutathione, SOD, and catalase. For the non-science people watching this, you're like, what? What is he talking about? Let me tell you, with my father, I didn't care how it worked. All I cared about was Could it help my father? And what were the risks? And once I saw there were no risks, I didn't really care how it worked. I don't know how this works. I still use it, right? So it raises our levels of our own antioxidants. There's a complicated reason that happens, but it's pretty amazing. Two, a double-blind placebo-controlled study, 8 weeks, double-blind placebo-control, showing that it turns our genes back on that turn off as we age. It's called genetic expression. And our genes don't just, people think genes control your eye color and your height. They control every single thing about you. It's your DNA. It is your genes are telling you to have healthy liver cells. You need to have a healthy liver, you need healthy liver cells. Well, your DNA is telling your liver cells what type of, it's like the gene is the blueprint saying, here's the proteins you have to make a healthy liver cell. And that decreases as you get older. So the signaling goes down, right? So now you're not producing the healthiest cells that you produced when you were younger because the proteins are not being produced. And third, it seems to amplify signaling to the immune system. We can't say it boosts the immune system. We can say that it turns the genes on that control the immune system because the double-blind study showed that. But also, when we're made up of cells, 70 to 100 trillion cells, every one of us. And you think about that number, there are 8 billion people on the planet, and we're made up of 70 to 100 trillion cells. And if our cells are healthy, we're healthy. In Western medicine, which I was a part of, Maureen, you, Lee, the focus on Western medicine is, I was taught, Dr. Silverman, what you want to do is make a diagnosis and then decide what's the appropriate pharmaceutical or surgery for that problem. That does nothing to make the cells better, pharmaceuticals. If I have depression, right, maybe I'm not making enough serotonin in my glands. Well, it's my gland cells that are not producing enough serotonin. If I have diabetes, well, my pancreas is not making enough insulin. So it's my pancreas cells were healthy. Now I'm thirsty and I'm urinating all the time. I go to the doctor, your blood glucose, Dr. Silverman, is 800. You need metformin, you need insulin. They're doing nothing to help the cells that used to be healthy are not healthy, right, anymore. Well, the immune system's job is to get rid of those bad cells and so good cells take their place. Well, the immune system has to get a signal to know that I have bad cells in my liver, my kidney, my retina. All our cells die, and we all have cells mutating, but we don't all get cancer. But you see more cancer as you get older. Why is that? Well, the signaling is going down. It's one of the reasons. The signaling is going down. The immune system is not hearing that there's a problem in my prostate or my retina or my joints. So this seems to amplify signaling. It doesn't cure you or heal you of anything. It just makes your body function the way it did when you were younger. And you think younger people, I'm 63. I feel like I'm 30. Is it the reason I don't take any medicines? Some people say, well, you must have good genes. Well, thank you very much. They're Levi's, but my parents were on medicines at 63. My grandparents were on medicines at 63. And there certainly is a lot more toxic crap in the world right now affecting me as I grew up compared to them. I don't take medicines. Is it the reason I don't take ibuprofen anymore when I golf? I golf every day. I golf twice a day often. I just did that day before yesterday twice. I don't take ibuprofen anymore. Is it the reason why I don't take ibuprofen? When I was younger, I played once a week when I was practicing. I took ibuprofen. I was hurting. I don't take it. We can't make any claims, but the idea is I used to produce this much of this. Then I produced this much. At 63, I produced this much. And I drink this and I raise my levels up to what they were when I was younger. And with no toxicity, can't overdose on it. You can put it in your eyes. You can breathe it with a nebulizer. You can do whatever you want with it. And you can't be allergic to it, no toxicity, and it doesn't interact with medications. So it's kind of like even a cynic that doesn't sleep well or has mood problems or ringing in their ears. We can't claim it's going to help. But even a cynic I can't understand why people, if they look at this and they say, well, it can't hurt me and there's a money back guarantee. God, I really would rather not have that in my ear. Let me just give it a shot. That's basically how it works. And Lee, you can go deeper into it.
David, quick question. How much are you taking?
I drink 8 ounces a day. When I have something going on or I feel like I'm getting sick, possibly, I'm drinking a half a bottle a day. I went to Asia for the whole month last February. I took 17 flights in 27 days. I was speaking all over Asia, and I could not afford to get sick. These people had planned these huge events that I was the main speaker, being on the medical board and so forth. So I was drinking a bottle a day. I mean, there's no toxicity to it. If it's not, when you take a medicine, right, you take there's a dosage, right?
Right.
And generally your liver metabolizes it. So you're metabolizing. If you take too much, your liver can't keep up with it. So I always say, if you have a headache, how many aspirin do you take? How many Tylenol do you take? 2. If you have a really bad headache, do you take 20 of them? No, I can't. Why? Oh, I'll get sick. Yeah, you'll probably die. This doesn't work like that. If you take too much of it, your body turns the excess immediately back into what it was, which was salt and water, which is what our cells are filled with.
Hey, David, could you address something that, we all see and hear quite frequently, and that is people who say, well, I don't feel the effect. I don't know that it's working, in my mind, there's kind of this pharmaceutical conditioning that we have that's kind of drug based, where what you just said is that you take Tylenol and the pain goes away, and we're conditioned that way. And people look at this like it's supposed to be a drug. Could you just drop me? You kind of half touched on that a few moments ago. Could you draw that out a little bit?
Well, it's not a drug, but I will tell you, Lee, what I found, I know you found, is, people look at studies and it's interesting, but I never see anybody go, oh my God, from a study. What makes them say, oh my God, is an experience, right? So from the double-blind placebo-controlled study, the genes turned on in every single person, genes that control vascular health, hormone, inflammation, innate immune system, digestion. So we know, whether you feel it or not, it's turning the genes on. It's every person that did, and the people that drank the placebo, which was saline, not one person had their genes turned back on. So we know it's working, right? It's a matter of when will you notice the change, because everybody wants to validate it, and there are different ways to validate it. With the liquid version of it, I just say baseline everything in your health before you start. Where are you today? With your medicines or your herbs or your yoga or your hyperbaric oxygen, whatever you're doing now, don't stop. Just write down what's not perfect in you. Maybe you have perfect energy. Maybe you don't. Maybe you have perfect sleep. Well, what's your sleep pattern like? Do you have low mood? Do you have attention issues? Do you have breathing issues? Do you wheeze when you walk up the steps? Do you wheeze when you're around a dog? Do you have digestive problems? What's your libido like? What's your weight? You baseline everything, baseline athletic performance too, because there's huge benefit there, and take pictures of your skin, right? Everything, wrinkles, spots, lesions, conditions, cellulite, scars. You just take pictures, because here's where you are today. I'm talking about this, not the gel yet, but I will. And you say, okay, here's where I am today, and you start drinking it, and don't change anything you're doing, and just looking for changes. 15% of people in the first week say, oh my God, 15%. And if the person's problem is their handshakes, am I saying in 15% of those people are going to say, wow? No, I'm saying something on that list that they documented a week before dramatically changed, dramatically. And if they take it properly, I have people take 4 ounces a day to start, 2 ounces in the morning, 2 ounces a night. Then after a week, the 85% of people that haven't seen anything, they should double it, go to 8 ounces and stay there until they see their changes. Then I see 60% of people by day 30 say, oh my God, and 90% do by day 90. The one thing is, if someone's on here and they have a response in the first 2 days or the first week, they're a little dangerous. I always say this, they could do a lot of harm. Not because they're mean, they're so nice. And they're like, God, I'm sleeping so much better. I haven't slept like this in 20 years. It just took 3 nights. And they give their friends a bottle or sell them a bottle. Say, drink this. Just drink 4 ounces a day. Watch what happens. The person's, okay, I'd love to. They do it. And after a week, it's an 85% fail rate. 15% of people will be excited. 85% will say it didn't work, and you lost them. And the problem is you lost them, but they may love somebody who just got diagnosed with something horrible, and you don't know that person. But because you blew it with the person showing them that this is real, they don't think it's real. They're not going to share it with the people they know. I mean, fortunately, the gel version of it is quick. As God is my witness, I say, look, I did it today to 2 people. I said, If you want to try to prove that it's not real, you'll know it's real in 10 minutes. You want to prove that it is real, you'll know that it's real in 10 minutes if you do what I say on just a handful of people. It's just a 10-minute test. But you're right, people need to be very cognizant of sometimes they're dramatic changes and sometimes they're really, really subtle. That's why it's important to write everything down.
Okay, real quick, Lee, we've got someone just kind of on the chat, and I don't want to shut it down, but Lee, can you kind of dig in real quick? Because I even had some issues in the beginning when I saw the bottle and it just says it's salt and water. Could you please explain a little bit deeper that yes, it's made from salt and water, but no, it is no longer salt and water? That would be kind of ridiculous to think that we're just out there selling salt water in 33 countries over the last 14 years. So could you maybe dig into that a little bit? And I do have another question about children with David or Maureen.
Yeah, we'll try and do that without, boring the other half of the group on here. But, Dr. David mentioned a little bit ago about the mitochondria. The whole thing in life itself is, how do you get energy from the sun into your body? How do you get energy to transfer? And great physiologists have described that it's about the movement of electrons. That life is just an electron trying to find a place to be at a lower energy state. And so when we metabolize glucose, which is plant biomass, that's what the sun, filled with electrons and carbon rings, we're taking those electrons through the Krebs cycle in the mitochondria, and we're transferring them or moving them through Krebs cycle and the electron transport chain onto oxygen. And historically, we've all understood that process creates oxidants, which is what Dr. Silverman was talking about earlier. But for 40, 50 plus years, our entire fixation was about taking antioxidants to put out the so-called free radical fire, the oxidative storm that was created in the production of that energy. Well, it turns out that those unreduced, or there's some of the oxygen molecules that are not fully reduced inside the mitochondria, and those are called reactive oxygen species, or ROS. You'll see those. And those reactive oxygen molecules are what we're talking about. Those are the native molecules that every one of us make in every cell, trillions of times a second, that are utilized to be able to regulate what happens at the DNA level in terms of regulating our cell defenses. It's what makes us well. It's what responds to stress, or oxidative stress, as we call it. And if we lack in that ability to respond to that stress, then we get sick. The oxidation turns into inflammation, which turns into disease, 1,000 times over around the body, based on a lot of various factors that are too complicated for us to get into here. The bottom line is, if we don't manage or regulate that process well, we're going to get sick. Well, it turns out that these redox molecules, these reactive oxygen metabolites, can also be created in a laboratory using electrolysis. And so when you look at the blue bottle and it says salt water, that's the base reagent that is being electrolyzed in a laboratory setting to fractionate salt into its component molecules to produce these reactive oxygen species, just like is occurring in the mitochondria. These are bioidentical. So when you think of bioidentical hormones, they're exactly the same. And these are bioidentical, and we can now use them as a supplement to replenish the declining levels of redox molecules that our mitochondria isn't doing so much anymore as we age. And as we replenish those levels, we're restoring, as the gene studies have borne out, we're restoring the level of response or stress adaptation that keeps us healthy. That's the whole point of, in the next 20 years of the anti-aging science, is how do we go in and hack, we call it a biohack, how do we manipulate, hack, turn on, stimulate, these pathway genes that tell my DNA that they need to make more proteins called glutathione, or that they need to repair the DNA that's damaged, or they need to make more mitochondria called mitochondrial biogenesis. How are these processes being manipulated? And in the next 20 years, we're going to see drugs come out that will be able to go in and flip these switches. But we have this in the palm of our hand right now in that blue bottle. It's a special bottle. It's an insulated one. It's covered and to keep light out of it. And so when people look at it and say, you mean we're going to do this with salt water? And it's like, it's not the salt water that's doing it. It's the reactive molecules that are suspended in the saline that when we consume them, immediately get into our body. They absorb everywhere and they flip redox sensitive switches, these cellular transcription factors that are the gene expression switches. That's what tells my DNA how to respond to the illnesses and the sicknesses and the aging and the toxins that are going on around me. So this is very sophisticated science, and we're so fortunate that this wound up, in the hands of ASEA Global. This was going the direction of big pharma at one time, and we're really thankful that it didn't, because it really didn't need to. It would have not turned out well. But we have this in our hands, and we can now use it to, as I call, fill up the gas tank. We're replenishing, refurbishing our capacity so that we can be more resilient against disease.
Hey, Lee, let me just share something real quick. So I see someone in the chat who's somebody saying, can you shut down the person who's negative about being salt water? So what I found, and I like that. I like when someone's like that, because a lot of people are, and they don't see it. And you're talking about the science, and the person who said that, it probably doesn't even understand what you're talking about, right? But here's what everybody will understand. If people investigate this and look at this and say, oh, the ingredients it's just salt water, and you go through common sense, 14 years old, 1.3 billion, how could you fool people? I'd rather people have a response with the product and have an experience themselves, and then they are investigating it from a different angle. At first, they're investigating if they do it all, Googling, and they're looking for a reason to say it's not real. Like, this doctor says it's salt water, this person says it's a scam, blah, blah, blah. But if they've had an experience with it themselves, they're like, well, they're investigating, well, how did it do that? And gosh, why is it doing that? And what else does it do? So the fastest way to give someone an experience is not, you don't know how long this is going to take. I gave you the realistic expectations. You take the gel, right? And you find 10 people who are hurting somewhere in their body, their neck, their back. And this is the most negative person, like this guy, Mr. Michael something. You should just remove him anyway. But he's really negative, right? And there's a lot of negative people in the world. Yeah. There's a lot of negative people in the world, right? But he wouldn't do what I'm about to say, right? Because they're just some, let's just say negative is a nice word. But if he found 10 people who he knows who were hurting, their hand, their neck, their back, and said, give me 10 minutes and let me see what this does. And he shook this up, and they rate their discomfort level on a scale of 1 to 10. They apply the gel 3 times in the first 5 minutes to the area wherever it hurts. And he watches when 9 of those people say, 9 of those people, when they say, well, how did it do that? Okay. A real negative person would say, oh, it's just a placebo. 9 out of 10, 90% of people are just susceptible to placebo. Okay. Then go take salt water and rub it on 10 people that are hurting 3 times in 5 minutes and ask them how they feel. So that's the fastest way for someone to investigate this from a different angle, and it opens people's minds. Now, there are obviously some very cynical, not nice word, negative people. But, we just don't dwell on them. They're laggards, and they'll suffer, and the people they love will suffer. But it's no skin off of my back. I'm like, if you want me to prove it to you, I don't have to. You're going to prove it to yourself. You got a money back guarantee for a month. Go find 10 people who are hurting. Go find 5 people who are hurting. And they could be closed-minded cynics like you. And if that guy's neck is hurting him, I know there's a 90% chance in 10 minutes he's going to say, well, gosh, I was wrong. How did it do that? So I appreciate the science, Lee. I do. I just know that most people don't even understand what you're saying. And the people who do, they appreciate it. The other ones don't understand what you're saying. They like to know that people do understand it, but it is the experience that makes people bulletproof. And no matter what anybody says, it's like, you believe whatever you want, dum-dum. I know that it works. And then they share it with people who are more open-minded.
You know, I'd like to jump in there because I love what you said. When it was first brought to me, my mom was extremely ill. And I looked at it, I was one of those negative people. I was like, salt water, give me a break, you know, and the person was not a medical person. I was like, why are you giving me information? I'm a physician. I'll take care of my mom. This is my mom. I've got this, you know. And I discarded everything that she sent me. And you all who know my story know my mom died a couple of months later, despite my best efforts. So when it came back around in our lives and my husband was struggling with a life-threatening illness, although I ordered it and I put the whole family on it, I was betting against it. I was actually praying that it didn't work because I'm very close. I was very close with my mom, and I didn't want to suffer that guilt that I was not even open-minded enough to try it. But I do want to just say, you know, I get it. I looked at the back of the bottle and I was like, salt water, you know, please. It's not just salt water, you know, and I know the gentleman was talking about the water in New York is horrible. Water everywhere is horrible. Yeah, I live in Galveston, Texas. We don't drink our water either. I have a big filtration system. They go to great lengths to have the purest water. I mean, they test things down to parts per billion, parts per trillion, and it's pristine water and salt. When they dissolve the salt into that, it's a saline solution that is clean enough to be IV grade, like to put into your veins. We don't, but that's how clean it is. The salt crystals dissolve in water because it's a low energy state. So they take that saline solution and they drive energy into it through electrolysis. They have a special metal that's on the anode and cathode, and they have variables that they have tight controls over, like pH and time and temperature and things like that, in order to break apart those bonds that are between the hydrogen and oxygen and the sodium and chloride. And then it reconfigures into these different molecules. And the amazing part about this is that these molecules are stable in the saline solution until they come in contact with organic matter like your body. So, you know, I know it sounds crazy, but there's a real science behind this. It's not magic, it's physiology. And just like the reason why it says that, it doesn't say trillions and trillions of redox signaling molecules, is because of the labeling they have to do because of the FDA. It's, if you look at a thing of bread, you know, it's going to give you enriched flour and butter and water and whatever else is going into that. If you're making a cake and you put all of the ingredients in a bowl, it's just going to be a big bowl of goop until you put it in the oven and the energy from the oven bakes it and you miraculously get cake. Same thing here. So we're starting with saline, but we certainly don't end up with saline. So it's okay that people are skeptical. It's okay that it doesn't make sense to you. But like Dr. David says, try the product. Try it on some other people. And David, if you want to talk a little bit about the 3 times in 5 minutes, maybe in a little bit more detail.
I kind of did. I kind of did. They rate their discomfort level on a scale of 1 to 10. They shake up the gel. They put it on 3 times in the first 5 minutes, and in 10 minutes, ask them how they feel, and watch what happens to 9 out of 10 of the people, and with no toxicity. Right? It's funny. I just went on a golf outing, and these were guys that I really didn't know. I knew one of the guys, and they're all putting stuff on them. I saw Voltaren cream, which is an anti-inflammatory, and I think it says on the label, it says, you know, it may take 10 days to take an effect, and it says don't use for more than a month. It could damage your kidney. It can do this and that, and I'm like, just we can't claim that it helps things that hurt, because that would be a medical claim. This is marketed for wrinkles. You want to look younger, you put it on your skin because it helps your body your body just rejuvenates its own cells, skin cells. But you put this on 10 people, you do that 3 times in 5 minutes on a knee, a back, a neck. You do it on 10 people, and they could be open-minded or closed-minded. They got to be honest and ask them in 10 minutes how they feel. And you watch what 9 of them tell you. You have to draw your own conclusion. But one thing you will know is this isn't salt water. That it's very easy for anybody who wants to validate it, whether they're validating it for their own edification, they're validating it because they want to know if it's worth spending their money on the product to know that it's real, or they're looking at the opportunity and they're like, if this is real and this is the breakthrough they're talking about, I need to know. When I'm going to share this with people, I want to know that it's real. I don't want to say, hey, I heard it's real. And that's the easiest way. When people, when they order their product, I say, if you're thinking about this as an opportunity, which there's a huge opportunity, you want to know, the first thing is when you get your product, baseline everything, start drinking this, everything in your health, track your progress, go find 5 or 10 people who are hurting and just do that simple 10-minute test. And then we'll be past whether it's real or it's not real. And then with conviction, when you can share with people because you've seen it, you've got stories to tell.
Plus, David, do you want to speak to the new studies that are going on? Because these would not be happening if this was not real or true. You want to touch on?
I'll let Lee or you go over the studies. I know some of the studies. People say, well, why aren't there big double-blind studies? But this company will not do studies on diseases. They won't do studies on pain. All I said was, you find 10 people who are hurting, have them rate their hurting level on a 1 to 10, and put it on 3 times in 5 minutes. You know how easy it would be for the company or anybody to do a study on things that hurt. Double-blind study, fill a tube with salt water and silicate in there so it would be very easy. Company will not do that. They're not crossing into the realm of appearing to be a pharmaceutical or anything like that. They chose this route for a very specific reason. This is a disruptive innovation, very disruptive innovation. I met somebody on a plane once I was in first class, guy sitting next to me. His wife happens to be sitting on the aisle on the other side. They were talking, and he goes, what do you do? I told him what I do. And I said, he said, well, what is it? Because I'm an engineer. And I was thinking, why is an engineer sitting in first class? I wasn't really sure why he had that much money to do that. I was kind of curious, but I explained it to him and I drew it out for him. And he goes, that's amazing. You say for things that hurt, my wife's ankle, she broke it 2 or 3 years ago and it still hurt her and it was killing her on the plane. I said, here, I took it out of my backpack. I said, have her put it on 3 times in 5 minutes. So we kept talking. And he said, I said, well, why? He said, this is not a pharmaceutical. I said, no, a pharmaceutical company offered to buy it and the patents and the intellectual property, and they turned them down because they felt the pharmaceutical company was going to bury it. Pharmaceutical companies do a lot of good. But I don't think a person on this planet thinks that pharmaceutical companies hold principles and people above ego and economics. Pharmaceutical companies need sick people, they need unaware doctors of other options, and they need dependent people and scared people, right? Dependent on their doctor for all the answers. Well, if the doctor hasn't been exposed or taught acupuncture or nutrition, how could the doctor possibly offer it as a solution? We're trained to write prescriptions, right? Well, he said, I invented something pretty amazing. I said, what is it? He said, it was a technology that made your body regenerate cartilage. Okay. How many people have arthritis? So he drew it out on a napkin. I go, that's pretty amazing. I go, well, when is it coming out? Where do you get it? And he's like, and it hit me. That's why he was in first class. I said, what did you sell it to a pharmaceutical company? He says, no. I was like, oh, well, I thought I was wrong. I said, what did you do? He sold it to the biggest joint implant company in the world. That's who he sold it to because they bought it. Do you think a joint implant company wants people regenerating cartilage? No. Pharmaceutical companies don't want people well. Why would they want people well? They wouldn't make any money. They want them scared too. They want them vaccinating for everything. They need scared people and sick people. They don't want things like this on the market. So there are more studies coming out. Lee or Maureen, why don't you cover them? I personally, I like talking about just proving it to people. The science part of it, I'm like, here, go read. I'm like, hey, read Lee's book, okay? Go to redoxmatters.com and you understand the science. But I'm telling you, I know you guys are the same. You never see anybody excited about reading this. It's better to read this after you've put this on 10 people that are hurting because it explains what you saw, not whether it's real or not.
Yeah, I agree with that. I would concur that my own entrance into this whole arena came at the hands of my wife's experience. And her physician recommended that we look into this. I asked him what it was. He just said, go get some. He wasn't even involved at the time. He said, just go get some. And so I had to scout out Maureen Hayes. She happened to be at a professional meeting that I was a part of. And it was through that connection that I really wound up getting involved. But it was that experience, David, that I saw what happened. And then I went into the science to try and explain it, because it really wasn't well explained, at least to my satisfaction. And I think it is important. You know, there is a side of this that this has to be on a firm foundation. This isn't just pie in the sky people, doing things because there's always the risk of, well, it's just a placebo or whatever. There's some really solid research going on within the company. There's tens and tens and tens of thousands of articles that are now written on the science of redox biology. This is real, it's legitimate. The reference I made earlier to the whole anti-aging movement, over the next 20 years, I've heard an expression where a rising tide raises all boats. We're going to benefit from that rising tide, because this is going to be household. It's going to be like Kleenex. It's going to be, everybody understands in the future what cellular health is. And the very things that Dr. David Silverman was just talking about are some of the reasons why people are looking for solutions like this, where they can get away from their medications and they can enhance their own, their own inner doctor. So I agree with that. If you want to rest on my foundation, I've got, just in the books that I've written, there's probably 1,600 cited studies that this is all anchored in, and there's tens of thousands of more. So for those who are feeling skeptical, or there's a place to go to do this, but there's a right way to do it as well.
Yep, there's plenty out there. Now, I was going to make a quick comment as we're getting closer to 9. So I don't think enough people look at what experts say video, short 9-minute, Maureen's on it, and other medical. And then whenever Jim plays it or I play it for somebody, I always remember Dr. Rich Michaels saying, we can actually put it back into people who are deficient in these redox molecules. I mean, if you think about it, every day we're meeting people that are obviously deficient and they're losing those molecules, and then these issues arise. But I was thinking about when I first got in, Jim and I got in, it's almost going to be 9 years in June, and I was already healthy and have a degree in nutrition science. So I knew nutrition. But for the people out there that are saying, well, I take this, I take that, they always, think they're similar. Why does somebody who's on vitamins, who's on this or that, need the redox signaling? Because I know when I started, I saw change. Renew had just come out 6 months before, and I saw change in 2 days on the topical. Again, I was well, but I had a 2-year-old finger that had a fungus on it. 2 days later, again, it was 2 years old. And here I'm seeing signaling taking place. Nutrition wasn't doing it. Something I took 2 years before from a doctor didn't work. So, why does somebody healthy, somebody who's saying, well, I do this or do that treatment or whatever, explain to them why they need the redox to make all that other stuff work better, and that they'll see the changes like I did, where I was then able to get off of this or that nutrition. We didn't have our Via line yet. So maybe we can just address that. Healthy people, they need these molecules. Why do they need them? Why does it make everything else work better? David, maybe you could.
Every part of our body is made up of cells. And so, here's the thing, healthy people, something that healthy people have in common with unhealthy people. They're getting older every day. Everybody's producing less and less of redox molecules. And do you want your body to function the way it did when it was younger, or do you not want to? I mean, some people wait until they have a crisis and they're like, okay, I've had people tell for years, and they come to me when they've got something really horrible's happened. And I'm like, well, okay, let's see what we can do. But, I wish you had listened to me a long time ago, because people are seeing me. They're seeing that my energy level, and I'm not like some athlete or something, but healthy people would like to stay healthy. We can't say this cures, heals, prevents anything. You have to connect the dots. If you look at your genes are turning off as you age, and this turns the genes back on that control serotonin things and brain function and thyroid stimulating, all these things. So, here if there was, I would there's nothing that this would be the last thing that I would give up. I would give up anything. And I love all of their products. I do the radiance, the I don't do the mood. I don't have a problem with my mood. I use all the products. There is nothing that I would this is priceless. The history of mankind, how many people do you think got to a point in their life as they got older say, God, I wish I was younger. I wish I was younger, back the way I was. Pharaohs, kings would give anything for it because they're see they're going to die, right? They're getting older. This is absolutely priceless. It just comes in a strange package, a blue bottle that says the ingredients are salt and water. Well, guess what? A good analogy. Okay, this is not a medicine, but one of the greatest breakthroughs in medicine was penicillin. Penicillin, the people that discovered it knew that it worked, but doctors rejected it. Everybody laughed at it. Why? Because it's bread mold. Why would I give bread mold to people that have infections? Why would I give bread mold? That's the stupidest thing I ever heard. Then there's a war, and then it gets full usage in the war. They're like, oh my God, penicillin works. So just because things come in a strange package or look on the surface look different, does not mean it's not real. And so I think everybody should be on this product.
It's almost too easy, isn't it? When we're talking about the mitochondria, and there are things that you can do to increase the number of mitochondria you have in your cells, like fasting, prolonged fasting, or high intensity interval training, things like that. It's a biohack. You drink it a few times a day, you rub it on your body. It's amazing what it does. It's such a great shortcut.
Yep. Yeah. And I wouldn't look at the opportunity side of this till I knew that it was real. And back then we didn't even have the gel. It was a friend of mine, a doctor got on it, and some skin lesions fell off of his body. And I knew that it wasn't a placebo, that they had been there for decades. So that's how I knew. But now it's very easy. Anybody wants to validate the opportunity side of this, because God knows a lot of people need an opportunity these days. It's just when you get it, you got a 30-day money back guarantee. Just run around and find 10 people you know who are hurting. Probably only got to do it on 5, but the more you do, the more dramatic your stories are. And so it is simple, but a lot of people are so brainwashed, they think they know everything and they won't even do that. It's like, well, next.
And Jim, you had a comment. Jim
Yeah,
had
I
a
was
comment
just
about kids, right?
Yeah, I mean, we're dealing with more and more people where children are having either learning disabilities, they're having struggles, they're under a lot of stress over the last 3 to 4 years. But again, like what Ann was talking about, we want healthy people to realize you have to do something to keep your good health. And again, as an ex-financial advisor, I saw more people save a boatload of money for those golden years. And it was either their health issue or that of a loved one that caused all that financial blessing to go bye-bye. But Lee or Maureen, or again, Dr. Silverman, why should everybody be taking this? I think maybe we've already kind of hit on that, but why are children having more health issues today? It's scary.
I don't think healthy children really need it, honestly. If they've got something, then do it. If you have a child who has attention issues, can't say it's going to help, right? But this crosses the blood-brain barrier. It really does. And there's some sites that people can see where their testimonials where mothers are sharing and fathers what happened with their children. If children have a breathing issues or skin issues, sure, but healthy children, they're generally producing a lot of it. And, there's genetic and environmental components that they should use it. But, after puberty, pretty much everybody is going to benefit away from it.
Well, yeah. And I will say we work with Rose Monday, who was the head coach of USA Olympics women's track and field for the 2020 women's team. And she works with middle school age children. Well, when you're a high-level athlete at a younger age, well, you need this for your body to be able to recover.
Athletic performance is Yeah.
That's right
And-
up here.
We can't say it helps pimples on teenagers, but we can say, hey, just keep doing what you're doing. Take a picture of what you are today and put this stuff on your face a few times a day and just take pictures every couple days. And you draw, I'll do it again. You draw your own conclusion. You have to connect the dots yourself, right?
Yeah.
And the
Exactly.
clean gas works even faster for that. My
Yeah.
31-year-old son is just amazed. He still gets
Yeah, the Redox clay mask. Yeah.
Oh, it's amazing.
incredible.
Yeah. And
So
not
it's
limited to
interesting.
skin.
Yeah, I don't think little kids, like you were saying, David, most healthy little kids have a full complement. But my God, the gel is a godsend for parents. You know, little kids fall down and get an egg.
Oh, yeah.
I've literally watched it
Yep.
go away.
Oh,
And
yeah.
yeah.
Maureen, what about the kids that go to school and they come home with a runny nose and
Sure.
we're always coming in contact with more and more bugs out there that everybody's going to come in contact with, and you need a strong immune system. And maybe the children need to get sick so they can have a stronger immune system. I don't know.
Well, like she said, though, I mean, it's cuts, bruises, scrapes, but ant bites. Obviously, you need it around the house just for that purpose alone for kids.
I think it's also important, as I've seen a few comments in the chat about, people moving away from the medical system. We're not here denigrating the medical system
No.
per se. There's a dual side to this. They do fantastic in acute care, emergency trauma. Even if you had a chronic degenerative diseases and experienced an acute episode from it, you probably want somebody there to save your life and keep you going. I mean, that's just part of, and that's okay. But the other side of this is prevention. It's a prevention versus intervention health model idea, and so we want to use the best of both worlds, but we want to prevent problems before they come. Anytime I have a chronic degenerative disease sign or symptom show up, that didn't just happen starting last week. You go to a football stadium and look around you and just run the numbers, say how many people here are going to have a heart attack in the next month, right? Well, did they just now get heart disease, or has it been there cooking for the last 10 or 20 years? You could go into diabetes, you could go into neurodegenerative stuff of the same thing. And so the point is that this is a part of a lifestyle. This isn't a fix-all. This is about incorporating a lifestyle and letting this supplement actually be a part of that lifestyle, because we're trying to make cells, as Jim was just pointed out, we're trying to make them resilient and to be able to be hardened, preconditioned against the threats that we experience every day.
Well, I never use the word prevent ever with this, but I will say, would you like to protect your health? Because we can't say it's prevention, and we can't. We're not allowed to say that, and we don't say it. They say, would you like to protect your health? I mean,
Proactive.
Yeah, you can be proactive.
Proactive.
Instead of reactive. That's the difference.
We're at the top of the hour, David, and I tell you what, you've been a proponent of the gel, and I will say I was doing a live meeting last night in Corpus Christi, Texas. We had a gentleman that had a horrible accident at one of the big chain stores where they do a lot of hardware, and he had 200 doors, solid wood doors, fall on him 2 years ago.
That's scary.
He had to be air vac out. He died the next day. They revived him, but he had so many discomforts in his body. He had a foot because it was crushed. He had to have it rebuilt, and he couldn't move it. We put the stuff here, and he applied it on his back, and he was shocked. And he started standing up and sitting down. He took his shoe off and starts doing this with his foot. We had an 18-year-old young man there. He couldn't see across the dinner table. So we put some of the stuff on his eyelids and in his eyes with the liquid. He was shocked. His brother was there. He could see across the street and read a sign that quick. Another gentleman, again, we had 3 people with 3 of what you're proposing. Everyone out here to go do is go get some Cotton Pick and Renew 28 and put it to the test.
Yep.
Just hush up
Say somebody
and go put it to the test.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And that will make every person here a believer. And I was a skeptic as well. But I could not deny what it did to my best friend's kid. And all these people, David and Dr. Osler and Maureen, are you really going to do something? You know, again, Rose Monday, head coach of the Olympic team. And we've got some, and we sponsor some of her athletes. Are they going to do this if it's silly saltwater? It's like, guys, come on, put it to the challenge. Do the David Silverman 3 times in 5 minutes. What in the heck is it going to hurt? Because I keep asking, well, by golly, what if it works? What do you have to lose, David?
That's just, and that's just the tip of the iceberg. When you see what
I know.
that
It
is,
gets their attention.
that leads you to the mother of it all, which is this. So, yeah.
Well, this is awesome as always. David, the numbers indicate you are absolutely a fan
Of
favorite.
course. It's been too long.
It's been way too long. With Dr. Osler and Maureen and Ann, we just want to thank you from the bottom of our heart. We do this as a paying it forward. We don't have to be doing this, but we do it. Quite frankly, you know, I kind of shared recently that I do it for selfish reasons because I want to hear all you guys talk because I need to be boosted up, and we all do. We need to hear these stories. We need to hear experts like Dr. Silverman and Dr. Osler and Dr. Hayes.
Or see little hearts in the chat.
Yeah,
Yeah, people are already saying you gotta have them back.
Yes.
Yeah.
It's hard to schedule. He's all
busy
over the place.
guy, golfing.
Yeah,
He does
golfing
agree.
in Asia and traveling the world. So
Right.
Oh,
And
you
so,
do.
yeah, next week we do have Dr. Aaron Kaufman.
All right.
He's also someone that we love and adore. I just love his, you know, he's got some cool stuff. And then after that, we've got Dr. Marty and Beth Wolford, our animal people. And I think we've got a few animal people actually on the show right now. So with that, guys, the recording will be up at redoxmatters.com within the hour. Please feel free to share that. Help us get the word out. We do no advertising. Do not go to Google, get research. Go to the person that brought you to this. And again, don't buy your product on Amazon. Respect the person that brought it to you and get it from them.
That's it.
Dr. Silverman,
you can get it cheaper from the person who brought it to you than Amazon.
Right.
A lot
Oh,
cheaper
yeah.
than subscription.
Well,
And reward points.
quick, Maureen and David, you could echo, well, all of us could, but real quick, Maureen, talk about the ripple effect. You as a doctor can only see so many people, but yet your ripple effect and Dr. Silverman and Dr. Osler is causing a tidal wave around the world.
Yeah, I was just talking about that to someone earlier today. You know, as medical professionals, we're time limited by the person in front of us. We can only see so many people. We can only impact so many lives. And, you know, since I've gotten into this, I'm educating the person who can then turn around and educate others. You don't have to be a medical professional. You just have to be someone who cares about other people and is bold enough to share a gift with them. And I always say it's like dropping a pebble into, you know, a pond, and then you get that ripple effect. And it's been amazing for me because, like David, I got involved because of a family member with a challenge. And I did not want to do the opportunity or the business part, but I had shared it offhandedly with a few people who shared it with a few people because they had amazing results. And now, you know, thousands of people all over the world have been impacted because of my getting involved. And so if you do get involved or you don't get involved, you're going to impact thousands of people. We hope you'll get involved and share it.
It's
Well,
humbling.
yeah, it really
Humbling,
is.
yeah.
When you realize all the people that you've blessed, and just remember that we don't do any advertising. We are the advertising budget for the company. And be thankful for network marketing, because if it wasn't for that, you wouldn't be here. So with that, Dr. Silverman, thank you.
Appreciate you.
God bless you, brother.
Thanks,
And
man.
Dr. Lee
Thank
and
you,
Dr.
guys.
Marie, thank you so much as always. We will be back next week. Please pay it forward, invite others to come and to learn about the most amazing gift that I believe God has
In
given us.
Utah.
Yeah, we'll be in Utah, so we won't be here, but Dr. Osler.
We'll be with a
Maureen will be.
grandbaby.
So anyway, thank you guys. God bless. We'll see y'all.
Bye, y'all.
Thank you.
Have a great
Bye, everybody.
weekend. Bye.
Bye-bye.